And we are live. It's Wednesday, everybody. Good morning. Dianne Wilkerson, Senator Wilkerson, coming to you this morning for WWOC Radio. So much going on, so much going on. But you are here this morning, and I appreciate it. Never take it for granted. You know, I start every week with the same commentary. 2 years ago, actually in May of 2020, these sisters, three sisters and a brother, I say three sisters and a brother with a vision, um, decided that it was important for us to have a medium to bring information to you on a timely fashion. And you know what? It wasn't even a plan around COVID, but of course, there we were, and here we are, 2 years later, really still dealing with COVID. And if you're paying attention, you know that we're all tired. You know, COVID tired, um, tired of COVID, but COVID's not done with us yet. So we got to be vigilant. I'll talk about that a little bit. Sometimes I just do. And last week we had a wonderful, wonderful conversation with Celia Johnston Blue about the Mass Coalition for Women, um, Mass Women of Color Coalition. And she talked about the importance and the involvement of women in the body politic. That's a small p politic of almost everything Massachusetts, and in particular, what's to come. We have a major races, statewide races, women of color on the ballot for governor, for secretary of state, for attorney general, an unprecedented time. So I hope you continue to pay attention. But I just want to start just by saying thank you to the sisters with the vision who knew how important it was for us to be able to have a medium to bring you information, because there's so much information that you need to know and share. And we'll continue to do that. We'll have something. We're going to continue this conversation really around women and economics and politics and health, because the whole focus of WWOC Woke Women Wednesday, when we come, is to bring you information on all things Black and Brown in COVID, which, as I said, means everything in our lives, because COVID has clearly invaded every aspect of our living and sleeping, wake and sleeping moments. And so every Wednesday morning, 11 a.m., yours truly here with you on Wednesday morning at 11. And then, of course, at 8 p.m. on Wednesday evening, my fierce and fearless warrior, citywide counselor, Boston City Council Julia Mejia, she closes it down. So I open it up in the morning and she closes it down at night. Always fascinating information. And especially for her, I have to lift her up, because she is carrying the responsibility for all of us in the spaces and places where Boston public school education is being discussed. She holds the position of chair of the Committee on Education for the Boston City Council. And that responsibility is really looming and weighing large because of all of the news space that BPS, Boston Public Schools, is swallowing up. They are in the middle of a battle with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the Baker administration, that has been threatening to take over the operation of the Boston Public Schools, the largest public school system in the state, because we are the capital city, and the largest number of children of color in any public school system in the state. She's dealing with the issue of a superintendent vacancy. The current superintendent will be turning off the lights, walking out the door on the 30th of this month. And it does not appear that the process for the search will be ready to fill immediately. So we are probably going to be in an interim superintendent posture, which is where we were before this one came. And then, of course, the third, and to me, the most important, is that in November of 2021, the voters in the city of Boston went to the ballot to vote for city councilors and the mayor. But one of the things that they did was respond to vote on a ballot question on whether Boston should reinstate its elected school committee. And I don't know that we really have talked about the incredible response, because somewhere around 113,000 votes were cast for the entire election. That was to elect the mayor, and the mayor, as you know, got 65,000 votes. And everyone the next day called it a mandate, right? The mandate for Michelle Wu. We didn't really talk much about what happened with question 3. We know that it won, but I'm not sure people understand exactly how much it won. As I said, 114,000 votes cast, somewhere around that line. 100,000 people voted yes to reinstate the elected school committee. You understand that almost every single person that walked into the ballot that day voted yes, and how so different it was from the question in 1991 when that ballot question was on, and the only community that it prevailed in was Roxbury and Dorchester, because Black and Latino folks knew intuitively that taking away the democratic process through which our public schools operated was not a good idea. So we were opposed to it, but the rest of the city prevailed. And for 30 years, we have seen the complete disruption, chaos, the real loss, I think, of our children, because it's our babies that overpopulate that BPS, have suffered as a result of the lack of leadership and strong leadership over the running. And yeah, were there issues with an elected school committee? Yep. Do we have issues with an elected city council? Yep. Do we have issues with an elected president, mayor? Yep. But you know what? We have a way to deal with it. And for 30 years, the people in Boston have had no way. That's about 6 generations of children graduating through our system. And what's happened in all that time? Well, one thing we know, the racial gap in terms of the learning has only widened. It was already bad before COVID, and it's only gotten worse. The high school graduation, the number of children who are, graduating, performing at less than 12th grade levels and reading is gotten worse, right? So who was this about? And certainly our children went back to school. Our administrators and teachers went back to school, for Christ's sake, in September of 2021, in this school year, with from after almost 2 years of isolation and with no real overall plan on how to deal with the emotional stress that 2 years of COVID isolation has caused. And we see it playing out in the acting out, in the reports of violence in our schools. And so I say all that to say that right now, our city councilor, Julia Mejia, needs all of our support. And we should never, if she is waging a fight, and she is, leave her standing alone. She just happens to be my colleague with WWOC Woke Women Wednesday as well. So we love her, and we really, really are blessed to have her in that space, because there is no more passionate advocate right now for our children than Councilor Mejia. So just thank you, WWOC. Don't take it for granted, to those of you who take the time to watch. And I always say, whenever you're here, you should always be prepared. I'm sorry, my nose is itching. Always be prepared and keep a pen handy, because there'll be something that's shared with you that you're going to want to write down. So be prepared for that. And also, um, want to talk a little bit about women today, and just some of the things that are happening, and why this is on my mind, because I think, like all of you, our hearts are weighing heavy. We've all been weighing heavy since the tragedy of Buffalo. You thought I was going to say Uvalde. I'm saying two of them. The tragedy of Buffalo and Buffalo, New York, and Uvalde, Texas. Buffalo, a young man, and I'm clear to say young man, because when white teenagers do things like mass murder, they're quick to call them kids. But when our 14-year-olds do something, we'll say young man. This was an 18-year-old, which means grown in the law, right? So I just want to give you a couple of kind of updates on both of them, which I think helps tell the story of why we should all be so focused and concerned about it. So we learned some things this week about Buffalo, and the one that I want to share with you is that this young man was on social media, like most of them appear to be, at least 30 minutes before he went into that grocery store, and he was talking with the people in the right wing chat about what he was getting ready to do. And as it turns out, one of the people that he was talking and chatting with was a retired federal FBI agent. and watch how this story plays out, because we will continue to give the benefit of the doubt. Of course, don't we always, right? We always do. um and who knows what might have been, but we'll never know, because even after he told them, apparently on this call, in this chat, what he was getting ready to do, no one bothered to give anyone no call, no heads up. And maybe, generally people, it happens. You see people, they say things. We don't always take them serious. But a agent, federal agent, didn't think even to pick up the phone and call the police department in Buffalo to say, hey, I don't know if this is real or not, but you should know X. Didn't happen. And as you know, 11, 12 Black uh, innocent people, former police officer, security guard, grandmother, church mothers, choir directors, were slaughtered. Man buying a birthday cake for his 4-year-old were slaughtered. Black, black were slaughtered. He went to kill Black people. So fast forward, 1 week later to Uvalde, Texas, and two things about that event that I wanted to highlight. Um, Young man, again, mind you, what that means is both of these young men lawfully bought rifles, AR-15 rifles. Um, no practical use, no human use. There's only one purpose of a rifle, an AR-15 rifle, repeat, rifle, and that is to kill and destroy. That's the only thing. You don't even hunt with it. So it's not about going to hunt. You don't protect yourself in your house with it. That's not what that is. It is to maim and destroy, create havoc and destruction. But they both bought them lawfully. So I don't want to make that point and park that in the parking lot. But what I wanted to share with you about it was just two stories that, again, like I said, women, mothers have been on my mind. And um, one, of course, is that I was sitting at home on Monday, I think, and they started, no, yesterday, on Tuesday, they started to play. They said, coming up, we have recordings of the children who were calling 911 and calling for help. One child, in fact, they were getting ready to play a recording of a child who was calling for help 911 before that child was killed. And I got up and left the room. There are some things about this I just don't, I can't hear. I can't imagine what it is like on the ground in Uvalde, but I don't want to hear that. I don't think I could hear that and then have anything resembling a rational day to hear that. Um, but the story of the mother who heard that this was happening at the school, got in her car and drove, got to the school to watch and see and talk to the police officers outside, screaming at them, go in and get my babies, go in and get the children, go in and get the children. And at one point, they handcuffed her for being so unruly. And she was able to plead and talk them into releasing her from the handcuffs. And in all of the motion and commotion outside, she was able to break through, jump a fence, go into the school, get her two children, and come back out. Now, there's so many things about the stories that we're hearing now and learning about Uvalde, that you try to put yourself in that space, and it's not easy to do it, right? It's just not. But any mother, I don't care where you are in the world, to hear that story would be thinking what I'm thinking, right? Well, of course, yeah, I'd do that in a second for my babies. I would do that for my grandbabies. I would do that without a hesitation, not even thought about it. But think about that in the after fact, because we do things as mothers, right? And then after we are done, and you think about, what was I thinking, right? What was I thinking? Well, you're thinking about your babies. And so every mother, real or appointed or drafted, understood that moment when that mama made that decision. I'm going to get my babies. It took the law enforcement an hour to actually, no, more than an hour. I guess what, 75, 90 minutes? Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Can you imagine the horror that those children experience? And why am I talking about this today, Woke Women Wednesday? I'm talking about it because I think sometimes it's important for us to just stop and think about the lives of women. Like, I think I've said this before. Excuse me. I study women in politics, the university Center for Women in Politics at Rutgers University years ago. They were the preeminent source and resource for the study of women who choose politics, right? Or public service, I should say. And some things that I remember that, in fact, I think I remember because they just made sense to me, that I was thinking about this week, is the fact that women come to public service differently. And by that, I mean this, and you know it, you know what I'm talking about. Women spend our lives getting ready, right? And what is, we think we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to do this. And then once we are finished with all of that, we can go work, do work on the school board or run for public office. The difference, men graduate from high school believing they're qualified to be the president of the United States. And all of that is part of the socializing that we do in America, in the United States of America. And I would say very much germane to America, that socializing. To different countries that have some pretty arcane and oppressive kind of notions of what women should do and can do. Don't get me wrong, but I'm saying for in our country that women come to to public service through issues, right? Something's going on at the school board, something's going on at the playground, something's going on at the community center. We get involved. The next thing you know, people say, well, you know what? You should think about this. You should run for this. That's how women come to public office, right? That's not how men come to public office. Men come to public office because they believe, like I said, there's the messages that they receiving all the time is, you're born for this, you're ready for this. They come to public office. They don't come thinking, I have to raise a family, make sure my kids are off to school, because even those of us who think we're woke are living in that space, even though we don't even know it. Some of us who think that we are woke, and are processing this in the same way. So the guys come into public office. If you look at Massachusetts, you can look at the city hall, you can look at the state house. It doesn't really matter, right? You can look and you'll see the guys enter earlier. They enter earlier because in our society, the responsibility for maintaining and continuing the family is not generally shared or expected to be shared by men. And when they do it, we lift them up as some kind of a unicorn, some kind of a novel. Oh my God, he came to work and he had his baby. Okay, that's what we do. And I'm not telling you this because this is, to be joking. I'm saying this because I'm thinking about it a lot in the last 2 weeks about how different it would be, how different things could be if women were more involved in the policy posture. Do you think those children would have been in that building for 90 minutes if a woman was the chief of police or the patrol chief of the parole? Do you think so? Because I don't. I don't. I don't. Should have done with them. So her mindset would have been set the way that mama's was set. I don't care what y'all say. I'm going in there and get my babies. And so, if anything, this has really been the call for me to say this today, that women process things differently. we come to we process situations differently. We come to decisions differently, and much more likely to get to a decision that doesn't necessarily have to include violence and mayhem. And that ought to be received as a positive thing in this city, in this country, in the world. Um, and we just need I just need to say that. So that's my national piece, right? So I want to talk about some Boston women, because this other situation that, again, important to lift up, because I think if we don't, no one will. But I posted. Some of you may have seen this on Facebook. I posted 2 days ago about this issue. I love this season. This is graduation season. This is engagement season. This is wedding season. You know, it's summer season. It's the season of celebration for so many people. I love it. I love all the posts about the kids that are graduating from high school, graduating from college, graduating masters, graduating, you know, just doing some incredible things. If you're watching, you know, I love it. I love to see it. I love to read about it. And so I was especially struck by a post, a news story first. I actually saw it on the news first on Channel 5 in Boston. And and then, no, maybe it, I either saw it on Channel 5 or 25, because in fact both Channel 5 and Channel 25 in Boston have been covering this story about a teenager from Ohio, in Ohio, who graduated high school with a degree on the same time and same day or same week she's graduating from college with an associate's degree. And you see her, right, you know, pretty face. She kind of got her heels kicked up, and you know, with the tassel, the hat, she's waving. And I'm thinking, okay, I must have misunderstood it when I saw it. Maybe they have a Channel 5 in Ohio or 25, but nope, it said local WCVB. That's our Channel 5. And so I saw it on TV. Then I see the post on Facebook, and it's a little different caption. So it's another day, which means after the story on running the story on TV, they then did a social media push. This happened last week. So you can imagine I was completely floored to see it again on yesterday. And so I posted about it. Like, why is Channel 5 and Channel 25 so dug in posting a story about a teenager in Ohio when we have 5 teenagers from Madison Park High School in the last 3 years who have done the same thing, including this year, right? Graduated from Madison Park High School and graduated with an associate's degree from the Bunker Hill Community College or Roxbury Community College, but it's the same thing, except those children happen to be children of color, all of them. And I'm calling it out, and I hope that you would too, because if we don't do it, it'll never change. But I just want to say thank you to Tanika Rochelle, who and Latrell Chase, because both of them are administrators, teachers at Madison Park, and I remember them lifting up this story last year, the year before last, when it happened, and the young man and the young woman who had graduated with dual degrees didn't get their due. You know, um, folks, we have to do better. I say we have to do better. I mean, we external to the school population, to that school, on lifting up our young people when they do extraordinary positive things, right? Why on earth are we going all the way to Ohio? This does, it just, it's like something's up to me. And so that's what I posted in my Facebook post. Why are they so dug in? Is this somebody's daughter or something? I don't get it, because we could be lifting up these children, our graduates, right here in Roxbury from Madison Park High School. And the message that they send by not doing so I'm hearing it. I hear you loud and clear, Channel 5 and Channel 25. I hear you. Can't say you didn't know because I know you've been told, but I absolutely want to thank those adults who have been pounding the table and insisting that the world, that the state, that the city, that the people know that Madison Park High School. I know that's not what people want to believe and talk about with Madison Park, but Madison Park High School is turning out students who are graduating their high school degree and their college degree in the same time. So think about that. I wish I had thought about it when I'm not even sure it was an option for me. But I could have been done with college 2 years earlier if they'd let me do college while I was in high school. Can you imagine coming out of college with an associate's degree? It means you only have 2 more years of the 4 year college to do, right? Right. And certainly Madison Park has figured that out because they have been producing students for the last several years who have completed that feat. And so thank you, Latrell Chase. Thank you to Tanika Rochelle. And congratulations to those students at Madison Park who keep defying all the negativity that we read so much. You can't miss a day without reading some story about something, some incident, some attack, some violence, something that a student at the Boston Public Schools did, right? They didn't miss Channel 5 and 25 didn't miss any of those stories about the local school found a gun here. They didn't miss any of those stories, but this big one they missed. And it's not over. I think we still need to be talking with them about doing these students justice. Period. Our local students, because they are our local news stations, and they ought to be bringing all of the local news. And the local news about young Black and brown children can't be negative all the time, especially when you have something like a gimme. And clearly, you think the storyline is newsworthy because you've been running it and you've been posting it. It just so happens you're posting about somebody who lives halfway across the country, making no sense whatsoever to people who are looking and watching. So don't think we don't see it, because we do. Don't think we're not paying attention, because we are. And we're going to just keep pushing and insisting that you just do better. You just do better. And these students need all of us to be pushing, lifting them up, and supporting them as well. So that's it. So closing, because this time flies so much, but I had to get that in there. I want to talk about the COVID and what's happening. We so many. I watch the numbers every day, and you all should too. All you have to do is just go Google City of Boston. You can Google City of Boston, and you'll see it, right? The numbers have been steady and increasing. When the weather gets warmer, we get out and start hugging and kissing and sharing beer cans and whatever. It's going to get worse. It's still very real. Every other day, I hear and meet, and I'm sure you do too. Somebody has COVID. I was at an event last Tuesday, wore my mask. I never took that mask out. My pictures, if you saw my pictures on Facebook with my yellow dress, I got my mask on. By the way, that dress was from Nouveau Fashion. People are still getting it, right? So we just have to continue to be careful. I was at an event last week. The reason I started to tell you is that I got a exposure notice on my phone that someone at the event that was near me for, I guess, at least 15 minutes, they said repeatedly, tested positive for COVID, to let me know that. And it's an exposure notice you get on your iPhones from the Department of Public Health. So you should just know and check it on your settings, and you'll see exposure, and make sure you have it on so that if you're around, you will know that. So that's my tidbit of information for today. If you don't know, if you have an iPhone, check your settings, and you should see in Massachusetts an exposure, and you have to turn it on though. You got to turn it on, and they'll let you know. But the Black Boston COVID Coalition, which I've been a member of since 2020 in March, has been doing something a little different. All of this conversation about COVID has been about hesitancy. They keep talking about hesitancy. Black people were hesitant to participate in the trial. Black people were hesitant to participate in, to get vaccinated because of forced sterilization in the 50s and because of Tuskegee. And I said then, and people may have taken it as a joke, but I didn't mean it as a joke, that most of the Black people that we encounter as we're out there at the Black Boston COVID-19 Coalition mobile van doing our work don't know where Tuskegee is and have no idea what the Tuskegee experience is all about. Their hesitancy around dealing with healthcare institutions isn't about 50 years ago, it's about last week. It's about a year ago. It's about what happened to them 2 years ago. It's about knowing that Black women right now, of whatever economic strata that you come from, so wealthy, middle class, low income, are more likely to die in childbirth in 2022, right? Than some women in third world, what we consider second and third world countries. That's what it's about. And so, how do we know that? Because we did something that no one else apparently thought to do in this groundbreaking survey and report that's getting rolled out on Friday, June 3rd. Check the website, info at blackbostoncoalition.org. Check the website. Our partner, Fenway Health and Black Boston COVID-19 Coalition, are rolling out a report entitled, We Thought You'd Never Ask. We spent a good part of last summer talking with Black and brown people who were coming to the vans for testing and vaccination and masks about their relationship with healthcare in Boston, the relationship with healthcare institutions. Do you have a PCP? Why? What was your experience? And so we are going to be releasing the result of that report on Friday at 12 noon on a virtual, so you can check the Fenway Health site as well, right? Check that so you can read it, right? Check it. Because it's groundbreaking, because we have all these people who write and speculate about why we do what we do. We decided to let's go ask some Black people. And they spoke and they shared with us. And we hope that this is going to be information that our health institutions are going to take up and they're going to use. And so stay tuned. 12 o'clock noon on Friday. It's virtual. Go on the website, either Fenway Health website to get the information for Friday, or the BBCC website. You can check that one as well. But we hope you will join us. We expect it to be a very large turnout. And we hope that other health institutions are going to take this up. We're going to beat this thing. We are going to beat this thing. But in the meantime, I know we're sick of COVID, but COVID is not done with us yet. So continue to wear your mask, and be mindful, even inside when you're in large gathering, that this Omicron variant is extremely contagious. And so you have to be careful. We'll be back next week with another, guest on some topic that I guarantee you're going to want to hear about. In the meantime, WWOC Radio, WWOC Media, and radio. Thank you again to the Women with a Vision for knowing how important that is, right? We're knowing how important it is that we are here with you and in sharing information with you. So we'll be back. See you next week. Don't forget my colleague, Fierce and Fearless City Councilor Julie Mejia. Support her, our Chair of Education. See you next week. Bye-bye.